just jumped in a river in the middle of Nepal. It was cold.
If I die, oh well. So the last time I grew my beard out like this, I was trekking in Nepal. And man, it feels so good to have it back. And in honor of the beard being back, I thought I'd retell the story of our trip to Nepal. And don't worry, those of you who watched my last video on Nepal, or should I say movie, this one's not gonna be as long. And I wanna give a shout out to the beginning to Red Panda Trekking Company. They're the ones who set us up with the guides, the gear, the trip, and a great time. Now I'm gonna be giving traveler tips and like an ongoing packing list as I make this video, so pay attention to that, and I'm gonna link everything I name in the description below. So this all started when my friend Pat was like, hey, y'all wanna go trekking in Nepal for a week? And before John and I could even say yes, Pat had already looked at the flights. Now there's no easy way to get directly into Nepal, so we had to choose a flight with a layover, and we decided to see my buddy Dylan over in East Asia. First traveler tip, make sure you research your flights beforehand. So we touched down, explored the city, rode scooters, ate food, then we headed back to the airport the next morning.
9 hours and 40 minutes will eventually reach a cruising altitude of 35,000 feet.
Now this was not your average plane flight. That's right, out my window, I was looking eye level with the tallest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. By far, the coolest flight I've ever been on. So another traveler tip, when you're booking your flights into Kathmandu, make sure you look beforehand to getting a window seat, and depending on the direction you're coming into Kathmandu, make sure it's on the side where you can see the Himalayas. So we touched down in Kathmandu. We were welcomed by our travel guides, and they gave us these katas. Actually, I think I have one. Yeah, so they gave us these things. I think they're called katas, and then we hopped in their car and we headed to our hotel. We had to go to bed super early that night because we would be waking up at 4 a.m. the next morning to catch a bus. The morning was off to a rocky start. So first thing, we missed our bus.
It's 6 a.m. Getting ready to go trek, but first we gotta catch a bus. We just missed the first one. Because of John. I don't know what that all means.
So we all had to pile into taxis and try to chase down our bus to get on it. Traveler tip. This is why you have guides who speak the local language. They're the ones who are able to make sure you run down that bus and catch it in time. So lucky for us, we caught up to our bus and were able to get on it at the next stop. We were also lucky because we got seats. Now I say lucky because this bus was probably made for about 40 people, and at one point there had to have been 80 on it. People were standing in the aisles, hanging off the sides, standing on top. They were everywhere packed onto this thing. And they would bring absolutely anything they needed to be transported. Tires, sewing machines, chickens, goats, dressers, carpets, you name it, it was put on that bus at some point. So the bus left the city and we headed for the mountains. Now, the Nepali drivers are a different level of drivers. We would be going alongside cliff faces and a bus would be coming the other way, and it looked like a one-way road, and these guys would both manage to slip right past each other, mirrors almost touching, and make it safely to the other side. Most of the time, I just closed my eyes and hope we made it to the other side. So we were probably on the bus for like 6 to 7 hours, going around super windy roads in the mountainside. I mean, you had people getting sick everywhere, throwing off the side of the bus. So traveler tip, if you have a queasy stomach, and you know who you are, make sure you bring travel sickness medicine. It'll really help. Eventually we arrived in Timbu, which is where we would begin our trekking, and that is where I had my first dalbat. Now you ask, what is dalbat, Clay? Great question. Dalbat is like lentils and rice, and we had it 75% of our trek. So it was a good thing I really liked it. And they have this saying, hold it up, hold it up. Oh, dalbat power, 24 hours. Essentially, you have dalbat, and you have 24 hours of energy afterwards. So it's great for trekking. So after we ate our dalbat, I should take this time to mention how well prepared we were for this trip. You see, all three of us were from North Carolina, so when you say hiking or trekking, we're thinking like oversized foothills over in the Appalachian Mountains, not the Himalayas. So our friend John did not pack hiking boots. Instead, he wore these sneakers that were like ripping in the front and the back, and they would come off constantly, so he was having a great time. We also packed tortillas, which went moldy. John emptied out toothpaste tubes and stuffed jelly down in them, but since the tortillas went moldy, it was of no use. And on top of all that, we only packed one water filter, and that one water filter took about 10 minutes to fill up, so we were winning.
I'm trying out my filter in sink water. If I die, oh well.
Going in for the first toilet stop.
So we started on our way. Waterfalls everywhere, steep inclines, rickety bridges, beautiful rivers. Be sure to bring your camera because you won't find views like this anywhere else in the world. So we also ran into a few locals along the way. One lady invited us into her home for tea. This was like the first time I realized how hospitable the Nepali people are. They would invite you into their home, fix you tea, maybe a meal, and just chat with you for a while. At one point, Pat was playing peekaboo with her child and made the child cry.
Good job, Patrick. You made her cry.
So we continued on, again, gorgeous views everywhere. And the next house we stop at, the couple not only invites us in for tea and a meal, they even invited us to sleep at their house. And they didn't even know us. So we chatted for a while, and while we were talking, I saw the husband bring in what seemed like an animal leg, I think it was a goat, and started to chop it in the middle of the floor. Actually, that's the exact spot where I slept that night. It was super delicious. I loved having boiled goat. We also had goat heart, which was interesting. I had never tried that before. This was also the first time we tried sompa, which was like this kind of, it's like this wheat mixed with their tea, and it came out to this sort of Play-Doh texture. It took some getting used to for sure, but Pat, he really liked it. And And that night, we laid out our sleeping bags in their living room and went to sleep, where the goat leg was chopped earlier that evening. Packing tip, make sure you bring a sleeping bag and one of those blow-up pillows. Super helpful everywhere we stayed. To a beautiful sunrise. Had a great breakfast of potatoes and some type of naan. I'm in the squatty right now. Another traveler tip, make sure you practice using a squatty potty before you come, like a squatty toilet. I think most travelers are expecting some kind of Western toilet, but when you're trekking in the mountains, there's usually a hole that you have to do your business in. So make sure you bring toilet paper. I recommend unspooling it and then flattening it in your trekking bag. Also, make sure you bring your toothbrush. You know, just brushing my teeth on the side of a mountain. Hashtag get on our altitude.
Gosh, sun is so strong.
Mm-hmm. Then we started on our way trekking to the next village, and we're off. Again, beautiful scenery. We were trekking through the Tarkagon region. Sorry if I'm not saying that correctly. I mean, there's just gorgeous waterfalls cascading out of these huge mountainsides. We saw snow-capped peaks over in the distance. We crossed this really cool swinging bridge. And then we finally came up to the next village. And this is the first time I saw ruins from the earthquake. You see, a massive earthquake hit Nepal in 2015. It devastated a lot of the cities and villages.
This morning, Nepal is shaking again. Another massive earthquake at the top of the world sends these residents running from buildings.
And there's still rubble from the earthquake. We were there a year later, and it's still just crazy to see how many things haven't been able to be built back yet. So we ate some lunch in that village. That was the first time I had Milton Dew. I think it's a kind of an offshoot of Mountain Dew. It was really good, got me amped. And Pat made yet another child cry. They were like playing this game, and just in the middle of the game, Pat did something and the kid just started bursting out in tears. But then we were off again. And we get to this one point where there is this 3 waterfall view. So like 3 waterfalls all falling beside each other. And we're like, look, this is just a great spot to chill out, relax, and take a poop. When nature calls. It was just this like magical experience where all of us had to take a poop at the same time. We're like, what better place than to be looking at these 3 waterfalls while we do our business? So we did our business and we walked back, and then something hit me. I pooped right in the middle of the trail without realizing. Traveler tip, do not poop on the trail. The guys would not let me live it down. Even to this day, they still remind me that I pooped in the middle of a trail trekking in Nepal. And after pooping on the trail, we continued to go down the trail. So something really awesome happened next. We're trying to figure out how to get up to this village called Malamchigam, and along the way, we meet some of the locals from that village. and they offer to help us out and take us the rest of the way up. They even offered for us to stay with them for the night. Once again, not knowing us at all, we're complete strangers, and they were just the most hospitable people I've ever met. Okay, now when we get to the top of this ridge, it's like 10 to 15 degrees colder. Traveler tip, make sure you pack both warm and cold weather clothes. We were wearing t-shirts most of the time like this, and when we got to the top, our sweat cooled off, and we got kind of chilly. Now, mind you that this village is about a 14-hour hike from the closest road. And we walk into this man's house and we see beds.
We have beds on the top of a mountain.
Beds tonight. We have beds, people. This is revolutionary.
Unheard of. Scott, I am in a village in the Himalayas, and it took me about 14 hours to get here from the last time the road ended. And I came to a hotel, kind of like a guest house, and look, they have mega bed. They have a mega bed, Scott. Mega bed!
But it did come with some conflict for the three of us. You see, for the three of us, there were 2 beds and 2 sets of sheets. So we had to push them together. 2 of us are gonna be on the outside, 1 of us on the inside, and sharing all the blankets. Well, John decided, hey, I'll be the warmest if I take the middle, so he volunteered to take the middle.
It's Cold War, babe. We're coming.
Thinking he would be squashed in between both of us having a good warm night's sleep, since it did get below freezing that night. Pat and I took the outsides, but you see, when we took the blankets, we would roll during the night, leaving John blanketless. So John was freezing throughout the night, and he is still reminded us of that incident to this day. John, pray that in your heart one day you would forgive us for stealing your covers while it was below freezing in the Himalayas. Please, please, John, I love you. So it was an interesting night's sleep. I still woke up early because I wanted to see the sunrise at this high of an elevation.
It is 6 a.m. and we're up here on Melanchgan. Our goal today is to get to the top of that ridge. We'll be heading out here in probably 30 minutes or so to go do that.
How'd you sleep last night?
Good.
Good.
You?
Kind of chilly. A little cold, but it was nice. So that morning, we are talking around breakfast, and John's like, hey, we've made it this high. I want to go summit something. So we all agreed, and then we summited the Thedapati Pass. We couldn't see anything when we got to the top because it was completely covered in clouds, but it was still cool to see the clouds rolling off the sides of the mountains, and we got to know our guides a little better. We ate some really good food.
get on our level.
All right, so climbed all the way to the top of the mountain. Got an all right view. It was John's idea that we came up here. John, small shout out to you. You're actually back there in my frame. Now we're going back down, which should be easier, right, John?
Nope.
Woo! All right, we're at Everest Base Camp. Well, actually, we're about 50 meters away. We should get there soon. It is pretty tiring.
Oh, hi, Chloe. What you filming?
Get out of my shot, John. So we headed back down. On our way back down, we actually saw these kids off in the distance playing soccer, and we're like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna pass up an opportunity to play soccer on the top of a ridge in the Himalayas? So we went and joined them, and let me tell you, there's some crazy boundaries in this soccer field. On one of the sides is a cliff face, so if you kick it a little too far over there, it's going off. Also, we were definitely out of our element. These kids played every day, and they just schooled us. I think at one point, John tripped on a rock and face planted. At one point, I fell into a cow patty. And Pat, well, he's pretty good at soccer, so he's the one who actually made us look good. Needless to say, we got a great night's sleep that night because we were all so exhausted. And the next morning, we would be heading back to Kathmandu. On the way back, we stopped in one of the same villages to grab lunch. We had kiddie swimming pool ramen. I should mention at this point that sometimes for Westerners in Asia, you get sick when you travel, and up to this point, we had not been sick at all. Next, we found a river. Now, it was a mountain river, so the water was freezing cold, but we hadn't showered in days, and we needed to get the stank off. All right, found a river, we haven't showered in days. Dip in the river, and now we're off toward Kathmandu. That's our final destination. We had made it back to where we'd catch our bus the next day, so we celebrated with some sodas and we played chutes and ladders that night. Now the next morning we heard the bus coming at 4 a.m. because it just lays on this loud horn. I mean, it's impossible to not hear it coming. So we jumped on, lucky we got seats again, and headed back to Kathmandu. When we got back to Kathmandu, we went and toured around some of the markets and the Buddha Stupa. I do recommend if you're in Nepal, in Kathmandu in particular, to go see the Buddha Stupa. It is a must-see, and I think it's one of the largest stupas in the entire world. So that's fun. Pat and I decided while we were down there, we would go into this coffee smoothie shop. Now, one of the things they tell you as an American traveling overseas is our stomachs can only handle certain types of water, so it's usually best bet just to drink bottled water. And we went into this place and both got iced drinks. And there was this point as we were both halfway through our drinks where we looked up at one another and we were like, we are drinking the water. We messed up on the last day, ordered something with ice. So we flipped out. We hustled as fast as we could back to our hotel. John, we done messed up.
Enjoying our drinks. I'm having a blueberry cheesecake. Yeah. We get done and we realize, oh, we had ice.
We had ice.
All of these things. You had a smoothie.
I had an all ice drink.
So you're all gonna die.
But we were okay. We actually didn't get sick the entire trip. That night we went to Tamel, which is like an outdoor adventures haven. They have like hiking packs, hiking gear, clothes, you name it, you can find it there. So we had a fun time bonding with our guides. We were hanging out, just doing all kinds of fun things. And we went to dinner with them, and actually at dinner, we saw a Nepalese pop star, apparently. Like we didn't know who it was, but he was famous. And so I tried to get a video of him, didn't do the best. And then we headed back to our hotel because that was gonna be our last night. We actually sang Christmas carols on the way home.
'Tis the season to be jolly. You've been bad or good, so be good. For goodness sake. Ho! See you guys.
And this morning, it was our last morning, I decided to get up on top of the hotel and get a view out over Kathmandu with the Himalayas in the background. It was gorgeous. I think I have some time lapses of it. We said all our goodbyes, jumped on the plane again, another epic plane flight because I was looking at Mount Everest again, and that was our trip to Nepal. The time of the beard is gone, and the era of the mustache has arrived. You're welcome. All right, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and make sure you hit that bell icon if you want to be notified anytime I upload another video. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one.